Hey guys, welcome to Fit Body Bootcamp. If you are watching this, that means you just joined, and I am super excited to have you on board. So basically what this is going to be is a educational series, and the first video in this series was we're going to be going over the basics of nutrition here. And so just to get you started in the right way, I think some of the things that are super important is understanding just the basics of what is a carbohydrate, protein, and fat. What is a calorie? What does all this mean, and how do you put this together to have an effective meal plan that's going to help you to either lose weight, to help you build muscle, and just kind of a lot of the questions. So again, this is going to be the first video just to cover, again, like I was saying, some of the basics. So to get right into it, you have people talk about macro and micronutrients. A macronutrient, real simply, is look at it as a large level, but you're going to have your carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Also alcohol, which is considered to be a macronutrient, but because it does have 7 calories per 1 gram. But that does not mean to go out and drink a ton of alcohol. You really, again, avoid that. But we're going to focus on carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Okay, so carbohydrates. So what is this exactly? Well, carbohydrates is pretty much your body's primary fuel source. So what that means is that it's broken down into the most simple form of glucose here. So all the foods that you eat are going to be converted eventually to glucose. And glucose is what's going to be your body's primary fuel source. So just look at it as that is what's going to help your body run the most efficiently. And with everything, that is also going to be what causes insulin spikes. And this can also is what can lead to diabetes if this whole system is abused. There are certain carbohydrates that digest more quickly and that lead to a more rapid release of glucose, and with that also a higher release of insulin. And this is where type 2 diabetes can eventually develop if you consume carbohydrates that are simple or that digest very quickly. Complex carbohydrates, on the other hand, are carbohydrates that are not going to digest quickly, that it takes your body a long time, so it's just a little bit of glucose that is released into the bloodstream at a time instead of all of it at one shot. So with all the different types of carbohydrates, some example that this will entail would be bread, pasta, rice, quinoa, chips, potatoes, yams, lentils, beans, fruits, vegetables, oatmeal, any of your fries or a lot of the that type of stuff that you get at these fast food restaurants, popcorn, cereal, and obviously sugar. All right, so you want to focus on what's called low glycemic index carbohydrates. And what that means is, again, it's basically a slow digesting carbohydrate. So one of the best ones, and again, with the meal plan that I gave you to start off with, is the 30-day rapid weight loss meal plan, where essentially one of the best and slowest digesting carbohydrates are beans and lentils. Beyond that, again, you're looking at whole grain pastas, breads, quinoa is another great one, the steel cut oatmeal, and trying to stay away from a lot of the other carbohydrates that digest very quickly. Certain fruits are better than others, but again, that's a whole other subject. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, and we can go over that at a later time. Now, one thing to look at here is that with your carbohydrates, there's 4 calories or kcals per 1 gram. And so what that means, when you look at a nutrition label and it says there's 30 grams of carbohydrate, that means that for every 1 gram, there's 4 calories in that. All right, this is something that's important to keep in mind, as we'll go over here in a second how to design all of your meal plans, how to do your calorie counting, all of that. Now, the next thing is going to be protein. And protein, again, is also, there's 4 calories per 1 gram. So protein, just think about it. Anything that comes from an animal is most likely going to have protein in it. Any type of meat. So chicken, turkey, pork, steak, fish, eggs, again, lentils and beans is another excellent source of a plant-based protein. Soy is something that, again, another plant-based protein, but you want to be careful with this because soy is a phytoestrogen, meaning if you consume too much of it, it converts to estrogen inside the body. So again, don't limit that, and don't consume large amounts of soy there. Whey protein, hemp pea, casein, and which whey and casein both come from milk. So any type of dairy, again, it's also most likely going to consume some sort of a protein there. Now, protein in its most basic form, when it's broken down, is converted to amino acids. And just look at amino acids, that is the building block of everything inside your body. So with this is what your body uses to build muscle, to build your skin. I mean, just everything. It's all made up of amino acids, in which the amino acids is what makes up, again, at a larger level, you're going back to your proteins. Okay, so this is why it's super important to be getting adequate protein. If you're not getting enough protein, you're not going to be able to build muscle, and your body will start breaking down your tissue if you're not taking in enough of it. So again, super important to make sure that you're taking in protein. Now, the last thing we'll go over is fat. Now, fat, you'll notice, has 9 calories per 1 gram. So it's over double the calories for carbohydrate and protein. So with that, it's much more calorically dense. All right, now examples of this, you'll have your oils, nuts, avocados. Again, a lot of times meats contain fat, dairy, and peanut, almond butter. Give you just some examples. Now, there are good fats and there are bad fats. And just look at it like this. The ones that you want to avoid like the plague are trans fats. And a lot of times these will be inside of like Oreos, packaged breads, any types of crackers. I mean, all sorts of different things. And essentially what it is that it's a chemically altered fat that is almost like a plastic, with essentially how your body metabolizes it. So you want to avoid that. Anything that has trans fats, and just again, kind of think about it, trans fats are going to be found in your processed foods. So you want to avoid processed foods. All right, now going into a more larger level is, how do you figure out how many calories you should be taking in? Now, that goes into a different equation, in which once you sign up, we'll go over all that, figure out your macronutrients. But once you figure out what is your basal metabolic rate, and then how many calories should you be taking in order to either lose weight or build muscle. And then in this example, we're just going to say that it's 1,500 calories a day. You're trying to lose weight. And we're going to go with a breakdown of approximately 40% carbohydrate, 30% protein, and 30% fat. So with this, your carbohydrate, let's just, you take 1,500 calories, multiply that by 0.4. That's going to give you 600 calories per day from carbohydrate. So you divide that by your 4 kcals, which that's ultimately going to give you 150 grams of carbohydrate per day. And let's just say in this scenario, we're going to go and divide that up by 5 meals. So with that, that's going to give you 30 grams of carbohydrate per meal. And that is just an example of how you would figure out, okay, how much should you be taking in? Now, a lot of people think the carbs are bad. Carbs are not bad. You still need them. That, again, as we discussed earlier, that is your body's primary fuel source. It is very important to prevent you from going into starvation mode and a lot of other things that you want to avoid. Okay, so the next thing is going to be your protein. Now, your protein is the same thing. Let's just go by the 1,500 times 0.3 equals 450 calories. So when you divide that out, that's by 4. That's going to give you 112 grams of protein and 22.5 grams of protein per meal. Fat, on the other hand, now 1,500 times 0.3, and again, you're also going to get 450 calories, but divide that by 9 kcals. That's going to give you 50 grams of fat per day. Divide that by 5, 10 grams of fat per meal. So if you have a breakdown here for a 1,500 calorie a day diet, you should be consuming approximately 300 calories per meal. Again, if this is if you're taking in 5 meals per day, 30 grams of carbohydrate, 22.5 grams of protein, and 10 grams of fat. Okay, so now one of the things that we're wanting to do, especially when you start going into a caloric restriction, and in this case, this is pretty much what you're trying to do. If you're trying to lose weight, the caloric restriction, what that's going to eventually do is that you're depleting your body's carbohydrate, ultimately your glucose stores. And glucose, the excess, is stored as glycogen in your muscles and your liver. And once your glycogen is depleted, then your body starts going for alternative fuel sources, and this is where your body starts using fat. Now, your fat, is stored as lipids, but then once it is broken down, is converted to something what's called ketone bodies. And this is where you start inducing a state of what's called ketosis inside your body. And some things that is typical with this, sometimes lightheadedness, just being tired, because this is not your body's preferred fuel source. Your body's preferred fuel source is glucose. But in order to lose weight, this is a state that ultimately you're going to be in, maybe it's a mild to severe state of ketosis. All right, so now the whole thing with our cheat days and everything else, that is to keep the metabolism high. So that way, because if you stay in ketosis long term, your body's metabolism will eventually slow down. But again, that's all stuff that we're going to cover in some of the upcoming videos. Now, so you at least have an idea on how to get started here. I'll give you some ideas, all right? Some essentials of what you should be buying. First is a food scale here. Too simple. This is just a plastic one. I think it was like $6. But anything on nutrition labels that it's talking about weighing things out in ounces, this is an essential, especially for a lot of times for meats, on the nutrition labels that they're measured out in ounces. And this is the only way that you really know. Getting some measuring cups here, great things. You have to, again, there's no way to figure all this out without having measuring cups to know what you're doing. And then also some of your Tupperware here. All right, you want to make sure that if you're packing your meals with you, you have this and have some good stuff to store it in. All right, so what we're going to do, I want to take you around the kitchen here, since this is where we're doing everything, and you can get an idea of what is some appropriate items that you should be eating. All right, so first thing, we'll go ahead and start right over here. We're going to go with some of your fats, okay? So a lot of seeds, just picture seeds. I mean, the sunflower seeds, chia seeds, which are great, a lot of almonds, peanut butter. All right, so look at it like this. If you're looking at the nutrition label there, if you can see it, but you want to make sure that in this one, the only ingredient is roasted peanuts and salt. You don't, if it has sugar, if it has any of that inside of there, you'll want to avoid it. Coconut oil, again, another big thing. That this is great. I get a lot of this at Costco. Olive oil. These are pumpkin seeds. A little interesting fact about that, there's a compound inside there that will actually help prevent male pattern baldness. Prevents the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, and that will actually help prevent you from going bald. So pumpkin seeds are good stuff. All right, now when you get into your proteins, so you're going to have, again, eggs, whey protein here. Got a couple different items of whey protein. And then here you go. This is cooked up a bunch of chicken for the week. Too easy. All right, that's the simplest thing of being able to set yourself up for success with everything. Now, carbohydrate. Now, there's a lot of different items here. Again, if you're going to do chips, try to stick with the natural ones and don't put all the artificial junk in there. If there's a bunch of preservatives, you want to try to avoid it. Yams and red potatoes are always going to be better than like a russet potato. Rice, a lot of your beans here. Beans are always good. I like to store them in these jars. Quinoa, whole grain pasta, whole wheat flour. Now, vegetables and fruit, this is also going to be considered a carbohydrate. Now, there's not a lot of carbs inside of it. So just picture, like with a lot of these, like spinach and broccoli, and got some kale here, you can eat as much of that as you want. Beets and carrots, those do have a little bit higher carbohydrate content. But again, these things, like if what I like to do, especially going in before a workout, is I'll blend all this up, throw in like a beet, some kale, some spinach, and it makes a great pre-workout drink. Give that about an hour or so to digest. All right, then the last thing here is a lot of your herbs and seasonings and everything that you need to actually give your food some flavor. So some of the things that you want to avoid any type of artificial sweeteners, anything with added sugar. Just look at it. Sugar, you want to just completely stay away from it. So some great things is stevia. All right, this is an all-natural, no-calorie sweetener here, and this is the only one that is not made in a lab. Literally, I've had this stuff growing in my backyard before, and you just take the leaves and it tastes sweet. So it is all natural. That is the only one that you really that you want to use. So if you have a sweet tooth, I recommend getting some of this. Garlic, any type of pepper. I mean, the cayenne pepper, turmeric. Turmeric is an anti-angiogenesis spice here that will basically what that means is that it helps to prevent cancer. So any type of your chili peppers, cloves, I mean all sorts of different stuff. Some of the hot sauce, you can use hot sauce. I personally like the Cholula here because again they don't put any artificial preservatives or any of that kind of stuff in there. It's essentially just some vinegar, salt, and some roasted peppers. And then here you go, some homemade salsa. Okay, so this is something else that you just put a little bit of salt, some cilantro, tomatoes, green onions, and a few jalapenos, and it's makes some amazing things. So that is your nutrition basics, and I will give you a close-up here of this board so you can get an idea of how all of this works. And you can take a better look at everything there. So if you have questions, again, I'm here to help. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next video in which we will be going over more things that will help you be successful and overall hit all your fitness goals. All right, see you soon. Bye.